Hi there. I'm going to read chapter 2 now of, does this work better if I turn it sideways? Of, Mists of Avalon. So, bear with me while I figure out where to sit that thing. And, God, I look so ugly right now. That's okay, I'm always cute. So, here we go. It'd be nice if I had a little tripod for my phone or something, but, I don't. So, I'm just going to start reading. Chapter 2. There was silence in the room, except for the small crackle of the fire. At last, Igraine heard herself draw a long breath, as if she had just wakened from sleep. "What is this that you were telling me? Do you mean that Gorloy is to be the father of this great king?" She heard the words echoing in her mind and ringing there, and wondered why she had never suspected Gorloy of so great a destiny. She saw her sister and the Merlin exchange glances, and saw, too, the small gesture with which the priestess silenced the old man. "No, Lord Merlin, a woman must say this to a woman." Or, "No, Lord Merlin, a woman must say this to a woman. Igraine, Gorloy is a Roman. The tribes will not follow any man born to a son of Rome. The high king they follow must be a child of the Holy Isle, a true son of the goddess. Your son, Igraine, yes, but it is not the tribes alone that will fight away the Saxons and the other wild folk from the north. We will need the support of Romans and Celts and Cymri? Cymri sounds right. Romans and Celts and Cymri. And they will follow only their own war duke. They are Pendragon, son of a man they trust to lead them and rule. And the old people, too, who seek the son of a royal mother. Your son, Igraine, but the father will be Uther Pendragon." Igraine stared at them, understanding, until rage slowly broke through against the numbness. Then she flared at them. "No! I have a husband, and I have borne him a child. I will not let you play again at skipping stones with my life. I married as you bade me, and you will never know." The words choked in her throat. There would never be any way to tell them of that first year. Even Vivian would never know. She could say, "I was afraid," or "I was alone and terrified," or "rape would have been easier because I could have run away to die afterward." But any of those would have been only words conveying only the smallest part of what she felt. And even if Vivian had known the whole, touching her mind and knowing all that she could not say, Vivian would have looked on her with compassion and even a little pity, but would not have changed her mind or demanded even a little less from Igraine. She had heard her sister say it often enough, when Vivian still believed Igraine would become priestess of the mysteries. If you seek to avoid your fate or to delay suffering, it only condemns you to suffer it redoubled in another life. So she did not say any of those things, only glared at Vivian with the stifled resentment of the last 4 years, when she had done her duty valiantly and alone, submitting to her fate with no more outcry than any woman was allowed to make. But again... But again? Never, Igraine told herself silently. Never. She shook her head stubbornly. "Listen to me, Igraine," said the Merlin. "I fathered you, though that gives me no rights. It is the blood of the lady which confers royalty, and you are of the oldest royal blood, descended from daughter to daughter of the Holy Isle. It is written in the stars, child, that only a king who comes of 2 royalties, one royalty of the tribes who follow the goddess, and one royalty of those who look to Rome, will heal our land of all this strife. A peace must come when these 2 lands can dwell side by side, a peace long enough for the cross and the cauldron, too, to come to such a peace. If there is such a reign as this, Igraine, even those who follow the cross will have the knowledge of the mysteries to comfort them in their bleak lives of suffering and sin, and their belief in one brief life to choose forever between hell or heaven for all eternity. Otherwise, our world will fade into the mists, and there will be hundreds of years, thousands perhaps, where the goddess and the holy mysteries will be forgotten by all mankind, except those few who can come and go between the worlds. Would you let the goddess and her work fade from this world, Igraine, you who were born of the Lady of the Holy Isle and the Merlin of Britain? Igraine bent her head, barricading her mind against the tenderness in the old man's voice. She had always known, without being told, that Taliesin Merlin of Britain, had shared with her mother the spark of life which had made her, but a daughter of the Holy Isle did not speak of such things. A daughter of the lady belonged only to the goddess, and to that man into whose hands the lady chose to give its care, most often her brother, only very rarely the man who had begotten it. There was a reason for this. No pious man should claim fatherhood to a child of the goddess, and all children born to the lady were considered so. That Taliesin should use this argument now shocked her deeply, but it touched her too. Yet she said stubbornly, refusing to look at him, Gorloy might have been chosen Pendragon. Surely this Uther cannot be so much beyond all sons of mankind as that. If you must have such a one, could you not have used your spells so that Gorloy would be acclaimed War Duke of Britain and Great Dragon? Then, when our son was born, you would have had your High King. The Merlin shook his head, but again it was Vivian who spoke. And this silent collusion further angered Igraine. Why should they act in concert this way against her? Vivian said softly, You will bear no son to Gorloy, Igraine. Are you the goddess, then, that you dispense childbearing to women in her name? Igraine demanded, rudely, knowing the words childish. Gorloy has fathered sons by other women. Why should I not give him one born in wedlock, as he desires? Vivian did not answer. She only looked directly at Igraine, and said, her voice very soft, Do you love Gorloy, Igraine? Igraine stared at the floor. That has nothing to do with it. It is a matter of honor. He was kind to me. She broke off, but her thoughts ran on unchecked. Kind to me when I had nowhere to turn, when I was alone and deserted. Even you had abandoned me to my fate. What is love to that? It is a matter of honor, she repeated. I owe him this. He let me keep Morgane when she was all I had in my loneliness. He had been kind and patient, and for a man of his years it cannot be easy. He wants a son. He believes it all important to his life and honor, and I will not deny him this. If I bear a son, it will be the son of Duke Gorloy, and of no other man living, and this I swear by fire and— Silence! Vivian's voice, like the loud clang of a great bell, shocked Igraine's words silent. I command you, Igraine, swear no oath lest you be forever forsworn. And why should you think I would not keep my oath? Igraine raged. I was reared to truth. I too am a child of the Holy Isle, Vivian. You may be my elder sister, and my priestess, and the Lady of Avalon, but you shall not treat me as if I were a babbling child like Morgane there, who cannot understand a word of what is said to her, nor knows the meaning of an oath. Morgane, hearing her name spoken, sat bolt upright in the lady's lap. The Lady of the Lake smiled and smoothed the dark hair. Do not think that this little one cannot understand. Babes know more than we imagine. They cannot speak their minds, and so we believe they do not think. As for your babe, well, that is for the future, and I will not speak of it before her. But, who knows, one day she too will be a great priestess. Never! Not if I must become a Christian to prevent it, Igraine raged. Do you think I will let you plot against my child's life as you have plotted against mine? Peace, Igraine, said the Merlin. You are free, as every child of the gods is free. We came to entreat you, not to command. No, Vivian, he said, holding up his hand when the lady would have interrupted him. Igraine is no helpless plaything of fate, yet I think when she knows all, she will choose rightly. Morgane had begun to fret in the lady's lap. Vivian crooned softly to her, stroking her hair, and she quieted. But Igraine rose and took her child, angry and jealous at Vivian's almost magical power to quiet the girl. In her arms, Morgane felt strange, alien, as if the time she had spent in Vivian's arms had changed her, tainted her, made her somehow less Igraine's own. Igraine felt tears burning in her eyes. Morgane was all she had, and now she too was being cut off from her. Morgane was falling victim, like everyone else, to Vivian's charm, that charm which could make everyone into a helpless pawn of her will. She said sharply to Morgause, who was still lying with her head in Vivian's lap, "Get up at once, Morgause, and go to your room. You are almost a woman, and you must not behave like a spoilt child." Morgause raised her head, putting back her curtain of red hair from her pretty, sulky face. She said, "Why should you choose Igraine for your plans, Vivian? She wants no part in them, but I am a woman, and I too am a daughter of the Holy Isle. Why have you not chosen me for Uther the Pendragon? Why should I not be the mother of the High King?" The Merlin smiled. "Will you fly so recklessly in the face of fate, Morgause? Why should Igraine be chosen and not I? I have no husband." "There is a king in your future and many sons, but with that, Morgause, you must be content. No man or woman can live another's fate. Your fate, and that of your sons, depends on this great High King. More than that I cannot say," said the Merlin. "Enough, Morgause." Igraine, standing, Morgane in her arms, felt more in command. She said in a dead voice, "I am remiss in hospitality, my sister, my lord Merlin. Let my servants take you to the guest chambers prepared for you, bring you wine and water for washing, and at sundown a meal will be prepared." Vivian rose. Her voice was formal and correct, and Igraine for a moment was relieved. She was again mistress of her own hearth, not a passive child, but the wife of Gorloy, Duke of Cornwall. "At sunset, then, my sister." But Igraine saw the glance Vivian exchanged with the Merlin, and she could read it as clearly as words. "Leave it for now. I will manage her, as I have always done." And Igraine felt her face harden into iron. "That is what she has always done indeed, but this time it shall not be so. I did her will once, when I was a child and knew no better. But now I am grown. I am a woman, not so easily led as the child she gave away to be Gorloy's bride. Now I will do my own will, and not that of the Lady of the Lake." Servants took her guests away. Igraine in her own chamber, laid Morgane in her bed, and fussed around her nervously, her mind full of what she had heard. Uther Pendragon. She had never seen him, but Gorloy was full of the tales of his valor. He was a close kinsman, sister's son of Ambrosius Aurelianus, High King of Britain, but unlike Ambrosius, Uther was a Briton of Britons, with no taint of Roman blood, so that the Cymri and the tribes did not hesitate to follow him. There was little doubt that one day Uther would be chosen High King. Ambrosius was not a young man. That day could not be so far. And I would be queen. What am I thinking of? Would I betray Gorloy and my own honor? Behind her, as she took up the bronze mirror again, she saw her sister in the door. Vivian had taken off the breeches she wore for riding and put on a loose gown of undyed wool. Her hair hung down, soft and dark as the wool of a black sheep. She looked small and fragile and aging, and her eyes were the eyes of the priestess in the cave of initiation, years away and in another world. Igraine cut off the thought impatiently. Vivian came close to her, reaching up to touch her hair. "Little Igraine, not so little now," she said tenderly. "Do you know, little one, I gave you your name. Graine, for the goddess of the Beltane fires. How long has it been since you did service to the goddess at Beltane, Igraine?" Igraine's mouth only stretched a little. The smile went no deeper than her teeth. "Gorloy is a Roman and a Christian. Do you truly believe his household keeps the rites of Beltane?" "No, I suppose not," said Vivian, amused. "Though if I were you, I would not take oath that your servants do not slip out at midsummer to burn fires and lie together under the full moon. But lord and lady of a Christian household cannot do so, not in the sight of their priests and their stern and unloving God." Igraine said sharply, "You will not speak so of the God of my husband, who is a God of love." "You say so, and yet he has made war upon all other gods, and slain those who will not worship him," Vivian said. Such love we might well pray to be spared in a god. I could call upon you in the name of vows you once made, to do what I have asked of you in the name of the goddess and the Holy Isle. Oh, rare, Igraine said sarcastically. Now my goddess demands of me that I shall play the harlot, and the Merlin of Britain and the Lady of the Lake will act as panders for me. Vivian's eyes blazed. She stepped one step forward, and for a moment, Igraine believed the priestess would strike her in the face. How do you dare? Vivian said. And though her voice was soft, it seemed to raise echoes through the entire room, so that Morgane, half asleep beneath Igraine's woolen plaid, sat up and cried out in sudden fright. Now you have wakened my babe, Igraine said, and sat down on the edge of the bed, hushing the child. Gradually, the angry color receded from Vivian's face. She sat down beside Igraine and said, You have not understood me, Igraine. Do you think Gorloy immortal? I tell you, child, I have sought to read in the stars the destinies of those who are vital to Britain's wholeness in the years to come, and I tell you, the name of Gorloy is not written there. Igraine felt her knees weaken, and her whole body loosen at the joints. Will Uther kill him? I swear to you, Uther will have no part in his death, and when Gorloy dies, Uther will be far away. But think, child, Tintagel is a great castle. Do you believe, when Gorloy can hold it no longer, that Uther Pendragon would be slow to say, Take the castle and the woman who holds it to one of his war dukes? Better Uther than one of his men. Morgane, what will become of my child, of Morgause, my little sister? Truly the woman who belongs to any man must pray that he will live to protect her. Can I not return to the Holy Isle and live out my life in Avalon as priestess? That is not your destiny, little one, Vivian said. Her voice was tender again. You cannot hide from your fate. It is given to you to play a part in the salvation of this land. But the road to Avalon is closed to you forever. Will you walk the road to your destiny, or must the gods drag you to it unwilling? She did not wait for Igraine to answer. It will not be long. Ambrosius Aurelianus is dying. For many years he has led the Britons, and now his dukes will meet to choose a high king. And there is none but Uther whom they can all trust. So Uther must be Duke of War and High King both, and he will need a son. Igraine felt as if the walls of a trap were closing around her. If you make so much of this, why do you not do this thing yourself? If there is so much power to be gained as the wife of Britain's War Duke and High King, why do you not seek to attract Uther with your charms and bear this ordained king yourself? To her surprise, Vivian hesitated for a long time before saying, Do you think I had not thought of that? But you have forgotten how old I am, Igraine. I am older than Uther, and he is not young as warriors go. I was 26 when Morgause was born. I am 39, Igraine, and I am past childbearing. In the bronze mirror, somehow still in her hand, Igraine saw her sister's reflection, distorted, misshapen, flowing like water, the image suddenly clearing, then clouding and vanishing. Igraine said, You think so? But I tell you that you will bear another child. I hope not, Vivian said. I am older than our mother was when she died in bearing Morgause, and I could not now hope to escape that fate. This is the last year I shall take part in the rites at Beltane. After this, I shall hand on my office to some woman younger than I, and become as the ancient one, the wise woman. I had hoped that one day I would hand on the place of the goddess to Morgause. Then why did you not keep her in Avalon and train her to be priestess after you? Vivian looked very sad. She is not fit. She sees, under the mantle of the goddess, only power, not the unending sacrifice and suffering, and so that path is not for her. It does not seem to me that you have suffered, Igraine said. You know nothing about it. You did not choose to walk that path either. I, who have given my life for it, say still it would be simpler to live the life of a peasant woman, beast of burden and brood-mare in season. You see me robed and crowned as the goddess, triumphant beside her cauldron. You do not see the darkness of the cave or the depths of the great sea. You are not called to it, dear child, and you should thank the goddess that your destiny is laid elsewhere. Igraine said silently, Do you think I know nothing